Good afternoon. My name is James Thompson. I'm the author of Thomas Jefferson's Enlightenment, Paris 1785, which was published earlier this year by Commonwealth Books of Virginia. In my last comment, I explained that before Jefferson departed for France, he formed a plan to become a member of his new friend, the Marquis de Chastellux's elite society. Today, I'm going to comment on the world Jefferson entered when he arrived in France in August 1784. This image illustrates the difference between the French mind and the American mind at the time of Jefferson's visit. The picture in the upper right depicts a demonstration by protesters following the enactment of the Stamp Act in March of 1765. The image in the lower left depicts a dinner party hosted by Voltaire for a few of the celebrated philosophes in his circle of admirers. During the 1760s, the American people became engaged in politics and began using the weight of their numbers to force political changes they thought would improve their lives. In France, thinking was done in small circles of cosmopolitans who had no material contact with the people. The peasants who composed the vast majority of the French people could neither read, nor write, nor reason, nor did they have political rights or a voice in deciding matters relating to their lives. At the time of Jefferson's visit, the French people still existed in three estates. Each had its own small, wealthy upper crust and a large, impoverished mass below. The French clergy formed the first estate. It contained approximately 125,000 members in Jefferson's time. The aristocracy formed the second estate. It contained approximately 200,000 members in Jefferson's time. The third estate was the commons. About 2% of France's commoners, 500,000 individuals, were members of a professional class known as the bourgeoisie. The bourgeoisie was also stratified with a wealthy upper crust called the haute bourgeoisie, a middling set called the petite bourgeoisie, and a meaner sort at the bottom. The rest of the commoners, 23 million, were peasants who lived and worked on the land. Each order had problems. The monarch was broke and having ever increasing difficulty raising money to finance his government. There was little opportunity for innovation or growth because France was an hereditary hierarchy. Its economy was strangled by regulation, and corruption was rampant in every corner of French society. This meant that the educated men who conducted business and administered the government in France's cities and towns, the petite bourgeoisie, had few prospects for advancement. Peasants in the French countryside lived on the edge of starvation. Everyone wanted reform. Slow-growing seeds for reform had been sown by two men of whom Jefferson knew little or nothing. Voltaire was a well-born commoner who became rich, famous, and celebrated by satirizing France's all-powerful Catholic Church and the corruptions of the French monarchy. Rousseau began life as a poor member of France's underclass. Through his writing, he elevated himself to become a member of Diderot's Enlightened Society of Encyclopedists. He gained notoriety writing critiques condemning the inequality of the feudal system that tied France's peasants to the land and deprived them of political rights. Voltaire and Rousseau were clarions for reform, but they were not reformers. That is to say, they did not implement new policies or organize movements to force policy changes. They reshaped the French mind with their trenchant words. This man was a reformer, Anne Robert Jacques Turgot. He was first an administrator in the royal government and later King Louis XVI's chief financial officer. In all of his posts, Turgot sought to reestablish the natural order in France's economy by encouraging the unobstructed movement of goods to its markets. His policies conformed with theories advanced by a group of economists who called themselves physiocrats. Turgot saw his policies in terms of his novel new view of man and society. Turgot interpreted the history of man and society as the gradual advance from barbarism to refinement, resulting after knowledge was applied to solve society's problems. By the time Jefferson reached France in 1784, her best and brightest men and women had embraced Turgot's view of history and become progressives. This worldview was unknown to the author of the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson was finishing college and beginning his reading of the law in Williamsburg, Virginia, when the French and Indian War ended and Parliament levied its first tax on the American colonies. In Williamsburg, Jefferson was mentored by the colony's brightest men. He read the classics and studied moral philosophy with William Small. He became a skeptic and a dissenter, listening to Governor Francis Fauquier compliment the heretical Lord Bolingbroke and condemn the orthodoxy of the Anglican Church. He read the law with virtuous George Wythe. Jefferson refined his method of reasoning while applying the common law under Wythe's watchful eye. Jefferson used his lawyer skills during the American Revolution to throw off the yoke of British rule and to dismantle Virginia's colonial aristocracy. It was no accident that Jefferson did not use the word progress in the Declaration of Independence or insinuate the idea in his rationale for separation from England. The American mind during the Revolutionary decade focused on redistributing political power. Like his fellow patriots, Jefferson focused on concrete political realities, not philosophical abstractions. Given his frame of mind, what he found in the best circles of France no doubt surprised him. Worldly cosmopolitans in private conclaves pondering how to curb the power of the Catholic Church, how to modernize France's economy, how to refine the masses, and how to reform their country's bankrupt monarchy. Jefferson was at heart an architect and an engineer. He was disposed to admire the architecture and beauty of Paris, which he did during solitary excursions through the city. In one such excursion, he claimed to have spent hours sitting on the bank of the Seine gazing at the Hotel de Salm. Sitting quietly and reflecting on concepts like Turgot's concept of progress was not a Jeffersonian trait. Yet his purpose for going to France was to remake himself in the image of her best men. A year after he arrived, Jefferson said as much to his friend Charles Bellini. He went there to examine the condition of the great and to appreciate the value of their circumstances. To be a man of the world like the Marquis de Chastellux required that he adopt the worldview that guided their thoughts and actions. When you read my book, bear in mind that Jefferson had a lot to learn when he arrived in France. The most consequential thing he discovered was that he was a progressive. He learned that as a progressive, it was his duty to put his country on the path of progress and to ameliorate the condition of man and society. He became, in other words, enlightened. This concludes my comment on Thomas Jefferson and the French mind. If you have any questions about this or other aspects of Jefferson's life, you can contact me at jct@commonwealthbooks.org, or you can look inside the book and purchase a copy of Thomas Jefferson's Enlightenment at www.commonwealthbooks.org. Thank you for joining me. I look forward to speaking with you again soon.